All right, do we think it's 6 o'clock? Are we ready to get started? Luke, we all set? All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ashley Brandt,
Yes.
David Elliott,
Yes.
Troy Jansen,
Yes.
Sam Behrens,
Yes.
Tim Bogardus.
Tim, I think you're on mute.
Is he muted? Yeah.
Tim, you out there?
Yes.
There you go. I like your background, by the way.
That's cool.
Looks good. All right. We just need a motion to approve the agenda and we can get started.
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the public work session on Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, as presented.
I'll second.
A motion by Sam, seconded by Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
And just need a motion to enter into the public work session.
I move the Board of Education enter into public work session at 6:01 p.m.
Second.
A motion by Tim, seconded by Sam. All those in favor? Oh, wait, sorry, we need a roll call.
No, I'm not.
Ashley Brandt,
Yes.
David Elliott,
Yes.
Troy Jansen,
Yes.
Sam Behrens,
Yes.
Tim Bogardus.
Yes.
All right, we'll get started. One thing really quick. Raymond, while I appreciate your excitement for the evening, I would prefer if you would change your attire to something more purple and gold related. Lame.
Oh. Wow. Wow.
It is draft night for those that aren't aware.
Mm.
And he's very eager.
I'm sure we'll have this wrapped up within 3 hours, everybody. So
Fair enough. Well, for those that have an interest in other things that are happening this evening, we'll kick this off here. Dr. Adams, we'll turn it over to you.
sure. I tell you what, last Friday, it was an emotional day. It was an emotional day for parents, for students, for teachers, for principals. You know, you heard me say, you know, during the first closure, not my orientation. I want kids in school. I know that this isn't ideal. I know that this isn't perfect. But on Friday, school was closed for the remainder of the school year. And I just asked Ashley, I said, I think we need to get together and kind of talk about what does that look like as it relates for their families and students and our staff. So tonight, what I'd really like to do is just kind of start with the elementary ELC and work our way up and talk about two things. The first thing that I want to talk about is there's a lot of events that we celebrate. They're ceremonial, if you will, that we do with students. And there's also some activities and some events. And I want the principals and I'm not putting them on the spot. This is something that we've talked about. I want to talk a little bit about what is that going to look like, because I personally value that. The principals value that. I know that the Board of Education values that. We want to honor and celebrate students for their accomplishments for the year. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to talk a little bit about what you know, grading, awarding credit, some of those things might look like, because I know that that's kind of on the minds of families. And so I'd like to start with Mr. Brumand. And basically, this is going to be a presentation to the board. Please stop them, ask them questions, clarifying questions. I just want this to be very transparent to the board and to the public on how we're going to move forward during this last several weeks.
All right, Brimond, you're up.
He's still muted.
You're muted. We can't hear. There you go.
I just pushed the button.
There you go.
Most of the things this last quarter, I mean, although the academic things, I mean, we're going to work on getting kids caught up with that. But at the beginning of the school year, most of the things that you guys know as parents are concerts, we still had a second and third grade concert yet to perform, a fourth and fifth grade concert yet to perform. Yeah, basically the only kids that got to perform this year were our ELC kiddos. So we still had the entire elementary. I don't know. I haven't sat down with Mrs. Gertis yet about what we're going to do. It just depends on what model that we're going to do in August. That will determine those types of things, because we don't have a preschool graduation anymore. So that was just everybody still had their night to perform. We still had ELC fun in the Sunday, our track and field days, all of those. So those things are all now just a push to the fall. I think I had a staff meeting with everybody yesterday. That was interesting, having that many faces in front of 2 pages of visuals. Our biggest takeaway from that is we're gonna when we do get the guidelines and the green light to open up socially to let a large group of people gather, we're talking about maybe throwing a back to school barbecue, whenever that may be, out in the big front parking lot of the elementary and the ELC. I think this morning on the announcements, I mentioned to the people that were viewing that we'll do our preschool parent night, our kindergarten parent night. That's all going to be in August, and that was going to be in August anyway. We were starting to make that shift and move towards doing all of those things in August. That way it's fresh in everybody's mind. So I think that worked out in our favor with this, because now it just forces the issue a little bit. Other than that, just field trips, the trips to the state capitol, trips to a lot of those types of things are just something that's just lost right now. And that, I don't know, I'll work with Mr. Moling to see if that's something then that the 6th graders next year want to pursue as a grade level to do those things that they weren't able to do as 5th graders.
What about for the 5th graders? Do you typically do any type of send off or event for them from elementary to middle school?
We have a day where they go up for a couple of hours to 6th grade, and Jake and Mr. Chapman and a few other teachers and kids tour them through. And again, we haven't talked about that so much yet, just because we don't know what the plan is or what our timeline is. But in terms of the parents were the ones that actually put together kind of a going away picnic type of a thing. That's what we had done. I bet you in the past 5, probably the last 6 years that I've been here, the parents have put something together for the 5th graders to just kind of leave the elementary.
Okay. So maybe if and when we get to the point where we can get back together, would it be an option to host those 5th graders at the middle school and maybe show them around and let them have that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jake and I are definitely going to line something like that up. That way it'll relieve any type of anxiety or worry that those kids may have for lockers.
Yeah.
That's the big thing, that they get worried about their combination, because that's
Right.
the first time with that type of a thing. So yeah, Jake and Mr. Moline and I will make sure that transition is a smooth one for the kids.
And maybe I'll just interject right here. So the Department of Ed is going to ask school districts to submit what's called a return to learning plan. And it would be something like this, kind of an orientation, if you will, that I hope in our plan, I know in our plan that we'll capture those transitions. I think they're important. Ashley, I think you probably have the same question of Jake. How are we going to orient and transition our middle schoolers to high school? So I think we'll capture that within our return to learn plan. And as Matt said, it's a little uncertain because it's a little uncertain when we're going to be able to do all of this. So the good news is that plan is not due until July 1st for obvious reasons. As soon as the Department of Ed gets the template put together and kind of the guidelines that we'll work within, I'll be pulling the principals and building leadership teams to develop that plan. I'm anticipating during the June board meeting sharing that with you at this point.
Great.
Any other questions for Matt?
And if there are any other, like also any of our kids with IEPs, we usually have transition meetings for those kids at the end of the year to get them ready for the next grade level. Mrs. Moss and myself and the teachers, we've decided all those meetings obviously are going to be pushed to August as well. That way, freshen the little people's minds, freshen mom and dad's minds. So all of those types of things are going to happen. Then the transition meetings for those kids will happen in early August as well.
The only other question I've got, Matt, is I've had some people reach out about kindergarten roundup or kindergarten day. Will we do something like that in August potentially, or will we just not need it?
It depends. Again, there was some discussion about whether or not we even need that day anymore because 95% of our population is coming from our preschool.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, before when we didn't have that preschool population and we were pulling from different areas, it was kind of a get to know the kiddo type of a thing for those 3 hours. And now, I mean, we know most of them.
Yeah.
And have good assessments and good background knowledge on what those kids are proficient in and what they need help in. So I'm going to get together with the preschool team. I'll get together with the kindergarten team. We already had in the books and on the calendar a preschool and kindergarten parent night. I mean, it would make sense if we did do along that same model that maybe, and again, it depends on, because preschool, most of the years that I've been here, it hasn't started until after normal start date for everybody else. So there could be an opportunity in there to do that type of a transition morning, just to let the preschool teachers in. And again, it just depends on what our model is going to be after that July 1 return to learn plan.
Perfect. So on the radar for something
Right.
to address.
Everything's on the radar.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Brumand? All right. Quick thank you to you for your morning announcements. It's a perk for a lot of our days. So appreciate you getting people excited for the days and still keeping those kiddos engaged. Doing a good job there.
Thank you. Keeps me entertained as well.
All right, Mr. Moling, I think you're up.
You
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we will be very similar to what the elementary is doing. The nice part is we have kind of started a number of those plans already for the 5th to 6th grade transition. We had originally already planned a 6th grade transition academy half day where we were going to have 2 days in August, and you'd only have to attend once, where they could come up for 3 hours and we would have some fun activities where they would get to learn about middle school life. And so we hope we can still have that. I think we were planning to have that the 1st or 2nd week of August. I don't quite remember the days. We'll get that information out at some points, but we'll see if that can happen. The 5th grade normally comes up and we take them around for about an hour and they eat lunch with us. Instead of that, we're going to have a video be made and just kind of a tour of the middle school and just some other things of, hey, here's the 6th grade teachers. Here's a little bit about them and their classes, and we'll get that sent out to everybody. Trying to celebrate our kids that we're missing out on. There aren't a ton of middle school celebrations and activities at the end of the year. We're going to do a virtual talent show instead of the real talent show that we end the year with. So hopefully we get some submissions for that. We're going to have an 8th grade video be made that will just be pictures throughout their middle school career, and then give that to them that they can then have and watch. We're just going to try and do the best that we can virtually, creating some of those memories and putting them together for the grades. And then we'll have an overall middle school video be made that we can push out as well. The teachers decided we wanted to keep our monthly recognition going. So we're actually going to have a virtual student of the month for April and May, getting the April one out next week, and then we'll do that again in May. So just trying to keep a number of those things engaged with kids while we can't see them and get together. And then hopefully come July or August, we can have some sort of get together, because we'd really like to bring everybody back for one last time. The nice part is our 8th graders, they're just going down the hall. So they're not going that far away, and we'll be able to see them. And if they have an FCS class or band or choir, they've got to head back in our wing anyway. So we won't miss them too terribly because they'll be not too far away from us. So that's been nice. The transition for the 8th grade to 9th grade, Mr. Boley can talk about that, but they actually got their transition parent meeting in before break. And so they did that, and they had been working on their 4-year plans and schedules well in advance. So a lot of that work's already been done. As far as what we'll do for grading from here on out, we're not going to give letter grades. We just didn't think that was fair for kids or fair for the teachers, because we have a semester grade, and we work really hard on trying to catch the kids and bring them back. We offer retakes, we offer missing homework to be done, and just the repractice and the reteaching. And so to put the pressure on the kid is unfair, and then to put the pressure on the teachers, we didn't think was right either. So we're not going to offer letter grades because we don't have transcripts or credits. Our 8th graders who are taking high school classes will abide by what the 9-12 does, and Mr. Bullock can talk about that. But for the rest of them, we're going to wipe the grades from the 4th quarter.
Do we have a lot of 8th graders that are taking classes, high school classes?
I wouldn't say a lot. I don't know that number off the top of my head. We can have some kids in high school math and then some kids in Spanish.
Okay. Got it. All right.
So you can already start to hear some of the items that'll find its way on the return to learn plan.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be a little innovative, a little creative in terms of how we transition. If you may recall that the governor suspended the August 23rd start date. I'm not at all prepared to tell you that we need to do something different. I know that families are probably thinking, okay, if we started on August 1, what might this mean? We're just not at that spot right now. I think there's obviously some financial constraints to that as we think about additional days onto the calendar. We may want to do a little bit of a tweak and have a conversation about, can the calendar support in any of the plan ideas we have? And we'll sure bring those up when they come up. That makes sense.
And just from grade to grade, we've already had our teachers sit down and make lists of their essential standards that they were going to have 4th quarter, and they are going to pass that on to the next grade level. And then we're going to talk to 5th grade. And 5th grade always does a great job at the end of the year of just getting us a lot of information that helps us with some of our scheduling and just getting to know kids. So I think we'll have the information needed for the most part. Not everything. We're going to miss out on spring fast testing. That data we do a lot of, but I think the teacher information should be able to replace that pretty well. And we're just going to plan to be flexible in that 1st quarter of a school.
So that fast day comment brought up a question I was thinking of is, clearly we're not going to have that information. We rely on that information for quite a bit when we're planning and talking about kids and just all of that stuff. Has there been any, this is probably premature, but has there been any conversation from the state level about what changes could look like next year in terms of capturing testing? Will we do it more frequent, like twice or multiple times, or what will that look like?
There hasn't. I mean, this guidance in terms of the suspension of federal and state testing, I mean, that just came out in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
As I say, they're building this plane while it's in flight. We'll probably get some guidance, as summer rolls around. But I do think it challenges us, as a school district to do, more common formative assessment quicker, do our own screeners. We have our own screeners. We can do that and hit the ground running when we return to school. So I've been putting some notes together, and there's a lot of uncertainty, but there's one thing that I do know, and that's we're going to be great when we get back. And that means that we know our learners and get after it and get learning going as quick as we can.
Any other questions for Mr. Moeling before we move on?
We're going to let Becca, we're going to tee it up for Becca.
Perfect. Well, really quick, I just want to tell Jake, I've heard some really great feedback about your teachers being engaged and being really connected to their students. I've had several middle school parents reach out to me. So kudos to you and your staff, because I think that they're doing the right thing on staying connected to their kids. So
Thank you. Thank you. I know they're working really hard. Connected to all their Google Classrooms, and my email blows daily with about 50 to 60 emails from their notifications. So I know they're working on reaching out.
yeah, they're doing a good job. All right, Becca, you're up.
All right, so there's a few events at the end of the year that Grandwood has. We've got Special Olympics track and field, so that's not happening. And then our seniors get to throw out the first pitch at an iCubs game. So that's something that we won't be able to do. We've got the school dance. We've got track and field day, just like the elementary does. And then the biggest thing is graduation. And so I've already rescheduled that tentatively for September 10th at 2:00, hoping that we're able to have the 3 seniors that we've got come back for that. I've gotten confirmation for 2 of them so far regarding them being able to attend. And when we talk about starting back to the next school year, transitionally for us, what it looks like for us accepting students right now, we're using our process, but we typically don't have just conversations about students that we're looking to accept. We actually do observations and get to meet the students face to face. So we're doing Zoom meetings now and having those conversations with the resident districts, having conversations with parents and guardians, and then I'll do a virtual tour of the building for parents to be able to ask questions with that. I will be talking with my staff about a soft start to the school year. Soft start doesn't mean that we don't still have the same expectations for our students, but just knowing that some of our students haven't necessarily had the respite care, the counseling supports that they would during the summertime. And so we'll need to have what I'm calling a soft start to the year and be able to have more time to work on their well-being.
So your kids have been one of the kids that have been on my heart, just thinking about, school's already tough for some of them. And then just thinking about these big changes. I'm curious, what's engagement like between staff and students at Grandwood? Because I know that it's different, but between the staff and students in the other 3 buildings.
Yeah, good question. It's a wide range. We've got some teachers who are providing academic resources and resources based on helping students understand what's going on during this time. Like, what happens when you see people wearing masks? Why are they wearing masks? Why do we not get to go to the grocery store like we typically would, or the library? So there's some social stories that several teachers have put together for students. We've also got staff that are just reminding students that they can help out at home, because their parents and guardians have been honest with us, saying that, they aren't able to place the demands on them like we would for academics, but simple things like, you can help mom and dad load the dishes at the end of dinner. Well, students maybe aren't so excited about that. Their parents are happy that they're being reminded that they can still help. We have had a few requests, and I've reflected this through my emails with Dr. Adams. We've had a few requests for parents to not do as much communication with them, just based on how things are going at home and the lack of understanding as to why we don't get to come to school every day. Yesterday, parents were able to come and pick up their kids' supplies that they had, their essential supplies that they needed at home based on their routine and medical needs. And one of the parents said that her son still gets up every morning, puts his backpack on, gets ready for school, and goes to the door. And she has to remind him that he doesn't get to come to school. And so just working through some of those different things that our students are so routine and they want to come to school. So I think it's a cool thing to know that they really do appreciate and enjoy school.
Yeah, that's great. Great to hear. Well, I appreciate what your teachers are doing and the services they're providing. It's very different, I think, than the other buildings, but still equally as important.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for Becca? All right. Bully next. Matt, you're on mute. Dr. Adams, you're on mute.
Is that better?
Yes, you are that guy.
Well, no, the trucks going by are so loud. I figured,
Sure.
yeah, sorry about that. I want Matt Icorn's voice in the conversation as well. So if they want to kind of co-present, or if Matt wants to share activities and events, however they want to do that. But we want to hear from Rob Boley and Matt Icorn as it relates to some of the things going on at the high school.
Okay.
Matt, you just want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump on it. Obviously, the spring sports from the girls' union and the boys' association have all been canceled for the spring. On top of that, we've had some band concerts, choir concerts, the spring play. So we've kind of followed suit with those. Obviously, we were thinking about potentially doing the play in the summer, but with everything getting pushed back as it is, it's just tough, and kids already have playing. It's just not going to work out. With FFA right now, the fairs are still on, so kids are still working with their animals and their projects. I don't know how much longer that's going to be in play, but as of right now, they're still going. The fashion show, which we started a couple of years ago, that was supposed to take place May 22nd, and that's not going to be able to happen as well. As far as some summer sports, we're waiting from guidance from the state. They said that June 1, they will make a decision on baseball, softball. I think there's a couple different scenarios that might play out. So we're just we have a potential schedule in place if that would be the case. And we'll go from there and wait for their guidance on June 1st, and then we'll go from there. But there's still some hope for those kids. Some virtual ideas, because the spring kids don't get to have a senior night. So Cody Churchill and I are working on doing some sort of video for those kids. So we got some information out to some parents and kids today. So we'll be working on that. I don't have a timeline. I'd like to get it done here sooner than later. But there's a lot of moving parts, because when Cody and I get together, the imagination starts flowing a little bit, and we got a pretty good idea. So I'll just kind of keep it at that. And then we usually do like an all activity night as well. And talking with Dr. Adams and Mr. Boley today, we might do something. I might reach out to my coaches, and they usually give them a couple minutes on stage to kind of talk about their seasons. So I might. Am I frozen? Frozen. Sweet.
We can hear you though.
I'm back.
There you go.
I was talking about the all activity night. Going to talk to my coaches about doing maybe like a snippet, and then put that all together and get that sent out as in play, and start to get those balls rolling. The one, I guess, a positive was speech was able to get their all speech in before all of this went down. So they were able to complete their season, which was nice. So as far as the other thing I want to mention about senior night, we'll do that just for the spring activities. We'll wait for the summer ones in hopes that they get a season. We could kind of showcase them at that point.
Awesome. Thanks. Fingers crossed for that summer season.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're hoping so too. And I know we got a lot of kids hoping so.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Mr. Boley.
When you talk about the things that we're going to miss, some things that I do not know if we're going to be able to reschedule would be prom and the senior trip. I don't know when some of those places are going to open up. I do know when you look at prom, the students had reserved an outside venue. I would assume or guess that once those places start opening up, they're probably already booked in the summer for weddings. Right now we know that there are a lot of events being canceled, weddings being some of those. So I know prom's extremely important to our students. It's a rite of passage. If they're canceling weddings, I just don't know if we would be able to find a spot to be able to do that. We did, again, you try to look for as many silver linings as you can. Talked about maybe having the students come back for a football game, truly embracing the word homecoming, and maybe having a tailgate type event for that class, and maybe encourage all classes to come back when we resume in the fall. That's just one way to look at it. As far as the senior trip goes, I don't know the availability of the venue they were going to in Wisconsin. So I do not believe that will be happening at this time. I do know that there are a lot of parents that would like to do something for the students, and we're just we're in that waiting, holding pattern until some of the social distancing guidelines are loosened. Graduation, last Friday after the governor spoke, I contacted all 47 parents of the seniors, and it was an interesting day, and just asked them. I came up with a 1-question survey. Would you want to do something virtually on the 17th or wait until a later date? 73% of the respondents said they would like to wait till a later date. So we will be looking at July 19th as a date for graduation. In the meantime, believing that the 17th is significant, and working with Mr. Chapman, got the caps and gowns in this week. We want to sort those out, present them to the students. And then later on the 17th, there's a couple things that we do in our ceremony that are very difficult to duplicate. One of them being the presentation of the flower, and just visiting with each family and dropping off a flower, so that on that day, maybe they do have their family over, maybe they're having something private. We can really kind of up that, give them something to remember, and then move forward to graduation. In no way do I want people to believe that the May 17th idea would take the place of graduation. Just something to a stand in until we can go. We had some great conversations. Some kids are leaving. They're going to enlist in the military. One parent said, I would love to have something done on the 17th, but my son, because my son's going to be gone, but I do not want my son to hold up the whole group. And that kind of speaks to the class. So, what else was there? Really, one of the things we looked at as far as honoring seniors, hats off to Cody Churchill. We spent more time on Facebook yesterday, or I did, than I think I ever have, learning how to do that type of site. We created something. If you guys aren't aware, go to Woodward Granger class of 2020, adopt a senior. Feel free to adopt any of our students. It was an idea just to get our seniors some recognition, so people, families, neighborhoods could adopt a senior, give them some thoughts, some snacks, some cards, something to let them know how valuable or important this time is. So we're doing that. In addition to honor our seniors, we're looking at yard signs. We've gotten a couple different places. We're looking at to personalize that, maybe Luke's senior picture with Woodward Granger on both sides, something they could put in their yard. The schools just wanting to honor the kids. So we're looking for that. As far as our other events, baccalaureate, want to talk to some of the churches. I know Dr. Adams had said one of the local churches had contacted him about using the parking lot for an Easter service. And I don't know if that would be a way to do baccalaureate, if we're far enough apart and we can enjoy some of the things. The seniors typically put that on. So my goal is to reach with Mr. Chapman. He's coming in tomorrow, so we can start putting the caps and gowns in some kind of map order, so we can not cross over all the time delivering. We want to figure that out and just ask the seniors, how do we make that work? When we talked about our senior awards night, we talked about possibly delivering a certificate, taking a picture of that individual, so that when Mr. Chapman and I can do a virtual awards night where we say Luke Markway won the Lions Club award, and then have a picture of Luke with his award. we're trying to piece some of those things together. I don't know if we'll weave those into the graduation ceremony. We have one senior who's going to be inducted into the National Honor Society. We would weave that into graduation. The other part of the ceremony we would do in the fall, as all of those other students would be seniors. They're juniors right now. And so that is what we're thinking about as far as our activities. Graduation, baccalaureate, senior awards, those things are really huge and weighing on us. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move into grading? Okay.
Just a quick update for you. I still have the diplomas. I have my meeting with Dr. Adams tomorrow, so I'll bring them and give them to him there.
That was going to be a question I was going to ask. Mr. Chapman, I hope he's not listening, but I really enjoy, he really has some control issues and he wanted to make sure that I had them. So I talked to Dr. Adams and and he believed, Dr. Adams said he believed he still had them. So I know, I just reassured him that they're not
They are in
lost.
safe hands.
We know where they are. We're going to get them. And so he can kind of breathe a sigh of relief a little bit, just because he gets a little worked up on some of those things.
They are important pieces of paper, so I get it. They will be at central office tomorrow morning.
Perfect.
Okay.
Any other questions over the events?
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for me on anything?
I would just like to say I appreciate the responsiveness to the parents. About 75, 3 out of 4 said let's push this, and so I think July 19th is about as far as we would want to push it, and hopefully things have opened up by then, or at least maybe, as Matt Bruman said, some of the restrictions, maybe we can get back to 250 at least. Some way to be able to do something. So I'm glad we're able to do something that aligns with the senior parents' desire.
And just to double, so you guys, just to rest assured, when we did the Adopt a Senior, talking to the building leadership team at the high school, specifically Mindy Buck and Scott Chapman, we're making sure that every senior will be adopted. There will not be a senior that will not be adopted. Just so if anybody's worried about that, or you're thinking about that, we have decided that we will adopt and make sure every student has those feelings that you have as a senior. So,
Well,
and to be honest, it's been interesting because some students, I talked to a parent, because she was the first one and she just jumped right out there. So I gave her a call and said, hey, thanks for following my example and jumping out there. And she's like, you know what? I thought somebody needed to do it and somebody needed to be first. And I was so impressed with how she just said, yep, I just thought I'd throw it out there. And I think he was out there and within 18 minutes. And again, this was within an hour, Cody, right? I mean, just the people that were joining, he was adopted within, I think 13 minutes of being posted. I think he was on a total of 18 minutes. And so pretty impressive. Says a lot about our communities, about, the importance of our students.
this community is hungry to do something to lift up these kids. And so I think what you guys have put together is really allowing that opportunity for people to be able to make these kiddos feel valued. And so kudos to you and to the community for really wrapping their arms around these kids and ensuring that they have a special experience. I mean, class of 2020 is going to have the most unique, I think, experience of all time, but at least for making it special. And I think something that they'll be able to look back on fondly. So really great idea. The implementation has gone well. I think that I'm excited to see how our community loves on these kids.
It's been exciting. It really has.
Yeah.
And kudos to Beth Griffin. If you're listening, she allowed me to use her as the test subject.
It's a great model.
I didn't put my own out there just because I thought, who's going to adopt Mr. Boley. So I just thought, you know what, Beth, can I use your items? And she played along and was a good sport about it. So
Good.
Which is a segue for some of you. I'm not going to mention who's given me a baby picture because I don't want to give it away if some students are listening. If you're a board member and you'd like to be in Hawk Talk with the baby pictures, please send them to me, because the students that send me emails seem to really be enjoying that. Some of our staff members are guessing, even though they're not eligible to win. So that's been pretty interesting. So if you still want to rummage through something because you're home, please don't hesitate to send me a picture. I think the kids really enjoy it.
Perfect. Tim's probably got one in his back pocket. He'll have it to you by the end of the meeting.
Perfect. I don't want to say that out loud. I mean, he may have been somebody who already turned it in. So
He may have been. That's fair.
I
They
don't
might
want to
have
make it easy. The last thing to talk about is grading. And again, met with when Dr. Adams, we were talking about some of these things. What are we looking for? What are we trying to do? We've kind of stumbled a little bit at the high school as far as our interpretation of some of the language. We tend to kind of put some expectations, maybe that were a little bit more stringent than should have been on students with some due dates, not realizing that that return to school, that when school's not in session, we're essentially closed. However, in my mind, I know the teachers are going to come back because we have to button up this year. And so we've had I've had some conversations. I followed up with parents when we've made mistakes, just because we don't want to cause more stress. We want to but we want to engage our kids. And so what we've designed is just similar to what we do during a typical semester, only we're going to change the dates. So right now we're going to issue a pass or an incomplete for any of the material covered January 6th through our last day on March 12th. And so what does that mean? That means that if you were receiving a D minus, a 60% or above, you would receive a passing mark. If you're below 60%, you would have an incomplete. And during this time, we would encourage all students who are beyond or below that threshold and receiving an incomplete to complete previous assessments, assignments, things that were done during that time period, turn them into the teachers. And then when we come back to school, when our school reopens and we issue a credit and we have a chance to finish the school year, we would evaluate those things to hopefully issue kids the passing mark. Didn't feel that students should be penalized by having their grade when we left. One of the things we talked about this morning, I have to remember, I mean, that seems so long ago, but that was right during conferences. So if I met with Mr. and Mrs. Churchill and Cody, and we developed a way for him to get back on track using our resources, jumping into ninth period, it wouldn't be fair to give him a C or a C minus or a D if he would have been committed to working to get his grades up. So likewise, if you had a 90%, typically those students will get a 90% throughout. So how can we do that? That being said, want to make sure that we stress we still had a lot of work to do, a lot of material to cover, a lot of kind of culminating activities due during fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is your build up. You wrap everything together. And so we still want students to stay engaged so that we can narrow those gaps for the fall. We can prepare them for if they're going to school and really provide that opportunity to engage in the material, but just in a different manner.
So do we know, or this may be something you're still working on, is for a lot of kids, things like GPA and class rank and those types of things are very important to them. And this could potentially have an impact on what that looks like. Do we know how that pass fail will kind of factor into those things?
This won't impact their GPA at all. So this is just like, to use a terminology, I mean, it's just a jump ball. I mean, we're going to start fresh. This is just a semester where we took it as a pass. It's not going to help your GPA. It's also not going to hurt it.
Yeah.
Looking at the seniors and talking with Mr. Chapman, what does this entail for our valedictorian, salutatorian? Based on his numbers and research, he did not believe that it would impact who those individuals were.
Okay.
And so looking at what colleges are accepting, NCAA guidelines, clearinghouse, we thought they were going to accept passes. It's not going to hinder somebody getting into a college. We're kind of in as Dr. Adams likes to call it, a global pandemic. And so a lot of the rules have changed, and we're just, when you see, when Iowa State sees, Luke's transcript and it has the spring of 2020, they're going to understand that we were wading through it neck deep, just like they will with all these kids that are going to graduate with our freshmen. They're going to understand that we were making do with the best we could and be able to trying to provide students with opportunities. So it's not going to hinder anybody's grade. We didn't think it would be fair to hurt your status.
Yep.
Plus, we thought it would be an equity issue if I don't have a chance to. What if I'm watching my brother and sister, and I would like to rework some assignments? How do I do that if I'm watching my brother and sister? Again, adding that stress to families.
What about our students that are taking DMAC courses? How is that being handled right now?
That's different. The courses for DMAC will receive the letter grade because it's DMAC, and
Okay.
DMAC has said that they are extending they're doing some things they've never done. They're allowing students to take it pass, no pass. They're extending the withdrawal date, and we are going to do some of those same things. So let's say, so you would get a pass so to answer your question, if you were taking a DMAC class, you would get a pass if you passed. You would get an incomplete if you didn't pass. You would be given some chances to earn some credit recovery like we typically do as a school. However, your letter grade would be sent to DMAC because that's what, if that's what you chose.
Got it.
DMAC is allowing students and their parents to make that decision.
And then one other question around ACTs. I know this is a time of year where lots of kids take or are preparing for that. What does that look like for our kiddos? Is there direction there?
I haven't heard much from ACT. I've read a lot about the AP. The advanced placement tests are coming up. They're going to remove some of the restrictions. They're going to be done in homes on computers. So we still have some students that may want to take the AP test. Again, that's to earn college credit if they score a certain amount on that AP test. So we're still going to allow that. We're going to allow students to do that because the students pay for that if they choose.
Okay.
But the ACT, to my knowledge, a lot of the testing has been postponed. I have not seen anything. Typically, I get emails from ACT. I haven't gotten, not that I've noticed. It's all been AP.
You know, one of the things that we did include in that continuous learning plan that went out several weeks ago, we did provide a link to the ACT and some online prep work that they could be doing. This would be a great time for students to prep for the ACT on their own.
Any other questions for Mr. Boley from the board?
We're planning on putting a letter out. I sent it to Cody to try to outline what we're doing so our parents understand. There's a lot of parents,
Right.
a lot of students that are a little nervous about what's going on. So we just wanted to make sure that we drafted a letter, ran it by everybody. I think going to continue it with Mr. Bruman. So it'll be a K-12 document for parents to look at. And then we'll start working on communicating with parents and families about the decisions about graduation. Other than that, I think if you have any ideas about honoring seniors, please don't hesitate to send me a message. I clearly don't have all the answers, but and been looking at some neat things. Just some of them are easier to do than others. Some of them are designed for larger populations than ours. Some communities have a drive-in and we don't. Just different things. If you're run across something, you see something from a family member in another state, please don't hesitate to shoot me an idea or an email.
Perfect.
Citizens, parents, and staff will read a correspondence from me tonight following this board meeting, and I think what I've put in there is within the week. We do need to spend a little bit of time on that K-12 guidance letter for families so they understand. You know, I guess I want to be, kind of really clear about this. There was good stuff that was going to happen in the fourth quarter. There was some essential learning that was going to happen in the fourth quarter that's not going to happen. I kind of took one out of Governor Reynolds' playbook. You read in one of my Friday reports that there was regulatory relief as it relates to graduation requirements, whether that be CPR 4333, including government basically saying, you know what, this isn't the kids' fault here. They didn't ask for this. And so I guess I lean a little more on the student end of things. Let's get them credit. Let's not paint them in a corner because we don't know what the future holds. You know, as if you read articles, this isn't going to be gone tomorrow. And but the real critical piece here is, what do we do at that fourth quarter learning? And so you heard a little bit from Jake during his plan. You know, my challenge to the principals and to the teachers will be to sprinkle those standards, those essential learnings that should have occurred in fourth quarter into the fall. And so that's kind of our plan to narrow that gap, if you will. This was a tremendous disruption in their learning, and they didn't ask for it. I know the parents didn't ask for it, but this is what we can do in terms of being great when we come back in the fall.
I think we've got a great head start on that. You guys have put in some great groundwork so far.
The only thing else that I have on my list, and I wish I had more to report, Ashley, I've got Hawks Nest on my list.
Yeah.
I pushed the question this week during a DE webinar. I'll be real frank, they're not ready to talk about it. You know, we're going to have to wait on some state agencies and some, whether that be Iowa Department of Public Health, the DE, Iowa Association of School Boards is leaning hard. We're very sincere in wanting to open in this program. I know it's a burden to families. We will open it when we can open it. I promise you that. But at this time, it's just premature to be able to kind of speculate an opening date. Again, in my correspondence tonight, I'm hopeful that by the May board meeting, maybe we'll know some things. That'd be May 11th, and we may not. But I'll certainly kind of keep a little pressure during our SUB meetings. I know several communities are wanting the same thing. So,
Okay, great. I appreciate that update. What else? What else do you feel like we need to chat about at this time? Board members, any questions for the team while we have them?
Yeah, for the principals, I'm aware of another central Iowa school district is monitoring their participation rate on kids for online learning. Are we monitoring our numbers at all?
Middle school, we have a spreadsheet, and teachers are just putting in next every time a student engages with what they put out. And then we break up by teams and we identify any kids who have not engaged at all. And then we personally reached out to them just to say like, hey, we'd love to have you. We obviously can't make you, and the kids know that, but we'd love to see you. We miss you, and we want you with us. For some teachers, their numbers are higher, some are lower, and there's so many factors that I think go into that. But that's how we're keeping track and just trying to encourage kids to come with us.
Same thing at the elementary level. We've got documents going at each grade level about kids' participation in their weekly Zoom meetings that they're having with their classroom and their teachers, and then also their engagement with Seesaw. So between those two engagement pieces, some of my teachers are having 2 and 3 Zoom meetings a week. Some are doing the weekly expectation only. And I was looking at numbers today. It ranges anywhere from 50 to 80% in a lot of the classrooms. Zoom meetings a lot higher just because they get to see their friends and things like that. And Seesaw it's about a 50% participation rate per classroom. Some are higher and some are a little bit lower. And we're doing the same thing, reaching out to those kids that we hope are not falling off the radar.
So if a parent accidentally misses a Zoom meeting, it's not because they aren't connected. They don't know what's going on.
Hypothetical.
I know you're asking for a friend.
Totally for a friend.
Absolutely. As I was driving down Burt Street last night, I was like, aren't there supposed to be some Zoom meetings happening? And the kids were just scattering.
There's only so much you can keep them inside, and then you got
absolutely. And it was beautiful last night. Yeah. I get it.
At Grandwood, we're doing similar things. The teachers are making note of the different things that students are doing in the conversations that they're having. And I should have mentioned, Ashley, with your question, one of the biggest things that we're doing and that I've asked the teachers to do is just ensure that the parents know that we're here to support them. And so while the students may not be doing the academics or the things that we are sending home as the voluntary educational opportunities, we're still just reaching out and ensuring the parents have those conversations. Sorry for the background.
You're fine. And I appreciate those teachers providing that support to those families. I'm sure they need it.
Our teachers are also keeping track A lot of what they're doing is on Google Classroom. Their Zoom meetings are more office hours in case students have any questions. They'll pose a question and say, we're going to talk about it on Zoom. When we reached out to some of the students that had not been engaging, that's when we misworded some things based on our interpretation of what the state was saying. So we're going to come at this with a new attitude and a new direction about how to word things, making sure that we're framing things the right way to make sure our students know that we care about them. We would really like for them to engage because it's just it's a pay me now, pay me later. We really want you to engage in some of this material so that you're ready for the fall.
Great. Any other questions for the group?
Is there any way to incentivize these kids to do it? I know it's voluntary, but can we offer you complete all your assignments that week? You're in a drawing for a Pizza Ranch coupon, Casey's Pizza, something like that, to get them motivated to do that. I know it's probably going to work better for the younger kids, but is there any way to do something that to create some energy? If you complete 3 out of 4 assignments this week, you're in this drawing. We draw every Friday, or some other idea like that.
Are there limitations to, because we are considered voluntary in doing some sort of competition or drawing or something like that for the work that they're doing?
I definitely think you could make a contest. I don't know if you could call it assignments or put a due date. Again, I think that's what was causing stress. And the parents that I was talking to, they're like, hey, wait a minute. I thought this was voluntary. My child, some of our students are going through some mental health issues, some depression. I don't want to be in on the Zoom because I don't want people looking at me. This is, just for me, and I'm learning Zoom because when my teachers with the conference principals, when I meet with them, Dr. Adams is on my far right. So when he talks, I look that way. And apparently you're not supposed to do that on this. You're just supposed to stare at your camera. Cody, look at, he's laughing because Cody tells me that you're just supposed to look at your camera. That's very unnatural. So when somebody looks, I typically look to where you are on the Hollywood Squares here. I try to make eye contact with you, even though there's no way for you to look at me. So just trying to be sensitive, trying to find that balance. We do have some kids that are looking for more, definitely, and we're taking them a little bit higher. We have some students that are skimming by, and we have some students that are trying their darndest to be left behind. They're trying to hide and challenging the teachers to go in and kind of, know and lift and kind of pull them out. We're gonna, those high expectations and build that future. We got to pull them into the construction site sometimes to make sure they get engaged. It's just that fine line right now.
So that brings up a question. I know in the elementary ELC, Mrs. Wilkening reached out and has offered to have conversations with students that may be struggling or need some of that more mental health support. Are we offering similar types of conversations or services at the middle school, high school?
Yep. Olivia Starcevich has her Google form that goes out to kids, and she's also running her own classroom where she's offering counselor type lessons, and then any kid can put through the form, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need a talk on this, and they have their Zoom hours set up and can discuss and reach out. So
it's a good plug for parents. If you have a kid who's struggling or if you need some guidance on that, maybe reach out to Brittany or Olivia and really Mr. Chapman and utilize the resources that we have because they're still available for you.
I want to touch on Sam's question really quick. Keep in mind the guy talking right now is giving out pairs of socks to people that stack pennies high. But the reason we're doing the voluntary educational enrichment, one reason is the accessibility and the equitability. I'd hate to incentivize something like that, and suddenly a child that's this isn't even hypothetical, helping their mother run the daycare all day may not have the same kind of access. I think, Sam, that'd be a great thing for parents to do at home. I did talk to a parent talking about if-then. Hey, if you get this done, then we'll go outside and play soccer for a little bit, and kind of throw a little if-then system in place throughout the day and incentivize at home, I think that'd be a great way to support your child.
I'd just like to commend the principals. It sounds as though if we're aware somebody's not touching base, that we're reaching out. The district that I was referring to in central Iowa, they're seeing participation rates under 25%, and that's a little disappointing to me. So I hope we're doing better than that. It sounds like we are.
You know, when I had a conversation with Mr. Boley, I don't know if that was yesterday, the day before, and he kind of shared with me an email that a teacher had sent out to a student. I said, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Don't let them hide. I want to engage with you. Please connect. Visit with us tomorrow, and really making it difficult for them to disappear. That's the goal that we have right now, that we should have right now. So Ashley, can I end with a quote that's been kind of driving me all week? And I think this is important. I've never read to you before, but I think you'll appreciate this. There's no such thing as the perfect lesson, the perfect day in school, or even the perfect teacher. For teachers and students alike, the goal is not perfection, but persistence in the pursuit of understanding. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish between now and May 22nd, is a relentless pursuit to partner with one another and learn together. I know this isn't ideal. I know this isn't going to be perfect. I don't expect it to be, but what I do expect is for us as a school district to reach out and make it difficult for our students to disappear on us. So I do appreciate it, what all of our teachers and our principals are doing.
Great. Well, we definitely appreciate it as well. Any other questions before we close the work session and move into the action agenda?
I just want to publicly say thanks to Cody. I think, he's been amazing. You don't realize how many technological issues you have until everybody's using technology. Whether it's my charger's broken, I need a replacement computer, being able to get access. I mean, he's been unbelievable. So thank you to Cody. I think our custodians have done a remarkable job. I mean, we've been at the high school. We've had some days where I've been there getting kids through to get their items. They have re-sanitized over and over. So hats off to them. They're essential and they're coming in, and the same, I'd like to shout out to Beth Griffin, because she's been coming in to help me, because we just need to, when we do have the school, when we do give kids time to come in, the front door doesn't open, so they're stuck outside. And if I'm running a student through the building, some people get, people have been understanding, but you kind of wonder if anybody's, minding the store, and she's always there to help when I need her. So I just like to publicly commend those individuals for what they're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely appreciate them. I'll echo the Cody statement. So just a funny story. I had my school board computer sitting on the counter, and my 3-year-old promptly shoved it into a sink full of water when I was doing dishes. So you're gonna be really happy to have him next year, Brumond. And so Cody hand delivered me a new one the next day. He is on it. And all of the things that we've seen, as parents, largely are built by him and his 2-man team. So we definitely appreciate what you're doing.
I know that it's a little bit premature, but I'm assuming some planning is already started on how we're going to collect any textbooks and allow people to get in to get their band instruments, things like that.
Yep. Yeah, in my correspondence tonight, it'll talk about principals reaching out within the next week with the procedures and protocols for that. I talked to Cody a little bit about that today on, what his idea for Chromebooks and how he wants to handle that. So as he kind of decides that, and principals think about, because people have personal property in our buildings, and then they also have school property in their possession. So yeah, we'll come up with a plan to make the exchange.
And I would say, Mr. Elliott, a lot of the students who came in when we had the school open, the weeks kind of were blending together. So it was sometime they were getting all of their things that they needed, which included their instruments. So we had a lot of trips to the band hall. to make sure that they had their instrument and their music. So, I think everybody has what they need.
I did see something on maybe it was Woodward Granger mom's, a parent that's renting an instrument. I'd rather they didn't pay May if they didn't have to pay May. So I would just encourage anybody watching, if you've got an instrument and you're making rental payments on it, let us know. We'll get that thing back to you. You know, I'd rather them not have to pay for May if they don't have to.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, we just need a motion to adjourn the work session and we'll move on to the action agenda.
I move the Board of Education exit the public work session at 7:05 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Sam, seconded by Troy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. And then we just need to, the only item on the action agenda is this resolution for pandemic response. Dr. Adams, you just want to give us a little bit of background on it?
You bet. This should look very, very familiar to you. We approved this resolution during our last board meeting, but we approved it through April 30th. The resolution that you have in front of you has a little bit of new information in it based on Governor Reynolds and Iowa Association of School Boards put this together. I think Troy had the honor of reading the 12, 13 pages. It was long, I know. We really only need to focus on two pieces. The first piece is, what are we going to do with hourly employees? We approved paying them through April 30th. You'll see in the resolution that I'm recommending that we continue to pay them. They're valued. I just think it's the right thing to do. And that would be my recommendation. There is going to be some opportunities. I talked to Dave Smeltzer. I think there's going to be some opportunities where we can get them more involved with some of the spring type of cleanup and things going on now that the buildings are clean. We'll obviously monitor the number of individuals and it'll be taken care of that way. And then the second thing in the resolution is we approved through April 30th that Woodward Granger would, a continuous learning plan would be voluntary educational enrichment opportunities. You'll see in the resolution, I'm recommending that we do that through the rest of the year. During my Friday board reports, I think I've shared multiple data points, as you will, on why I would support that. Just to kind of give you an idea, nearly 90% of the school districts across the state of Iowa are doing voluntary educational enrichment opportunities for obvious reasons, the accessibility and the equitability of what we're doing. So I do think there's another gear. The teachers read about it. The principals have read about it. I said, let's find that next gear. Let's make it difficult for them to disappear. We've got 4 more weeks of learning, okay? The building might be closed, but we're open for business till May 22nd. That's the last day of school. So I don't want people to physically check out on me, and I don't want people to mentally check out on me right now. We've got 4 weeks of school left, and we're gonna find that next gear. So those would be the two things in the resolution that I'd at least like that read, if you support that, and take care of it.
All right.
I will move that the Board of Education approve the following changes to the pandemic response and emergency suspension of policy. Be it further resolved that in the light of this district-wide emergency closure, the board authorizes the superintendent to place hourly and classified non-exempt employees on paid administrative leave and to continue to pay them until the number of days expressed in the contract have been fulfilled during the period of the school closure. Be it further resolved that the district has elected to provide voluntary education enrichment opportunities to students in the district during this period of school closures. Second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Troy. We need a roll call, please.
Ashley Brandt,
Yes.
David Elliott,
Yes.
Troy Jansen,
Yes.
Sam Behrens,
Yes.
Tim Bogardus,
Yes.
All right. And Dr. Adams, I think you said it, but we truly do value those hourly employees, and we look forward to seeing all their faces in the building next year and the contributions they will make. Our next meeting is May 11th. Hopefully we'll have more direction and updates at that point to share. Any other items of note before we adjourn?
Yeah, I guess the only other thing that I would share, I think Lisa Anderson and Brittany Wilkening and et al., the local churches have done a fantastic job with the meals and with the food pantry. I would just, those watching, or if you have a friend or a neighbor that could benefit from that, there's plenty. There's plenty. I don't want to be bashful. I don't want to be hesitant. We've done this as a community to rally around all of our citizens. So I hope people take advantage of that.
All right. Well, then we just need a motion to adjourn so that some people of interest can get to whatever they have for the rest of tonight.
I move that the meeting adjourn at 7:10 PM.
Second.
A motion by Tim, seconded by Troy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all officially on the May board meeting.
Go
Thanks.
Dolphins.
Bye.
Bills.
See ya.
Go pack up.